All right, so let's try to fix the variables. So because we imported a different data sheet, we need to change our variables according to that. Okay. So in the loan amount variable, we will basically pass the value of the function. So that return value, so for the loan amount, let's read line number, let's say try to read line number 2, which is 300,000. So this is what we'll put about the loan amount. So then what about loan term? So now we have to import the loan term column, the loan term column values as well. So what we can do, we can copy the same thing, okay? And then we'll recall this function, same path, same sheet, but this time we'll specify the loan term column. So the loan term column, and we're reading all of those lines within the loan term column. And we'll put this into a variable. So let's call this variable loan term. And we'll do the same thing for the interest rate. Copy that. We don't need this print command anymore, so we'll take that out and we'll copy it here. And the third one is interest rate. Okay, and we'll put this in a variable called interest rate. Doesn't really matter, you can name it as whatever you want. Now we'll put these values, the return value of the function, so the loan term variable has the return value of fetching the data from the loan term column in our Excel sheet. Okay, so for the loan term, let's read a specific value. So at this point, we're just reading the specific values, not all of the rows. So just one specific row of the column. So for loan term, let's take 10 years. So let's read line number 2 of the loan term. So loan term, line number 2. I can also say line number 1 or line number 3, but nothing after 3 because I don't have a fourth line. I only have 3 lines to read from. Okay, so let's do the same for the interest rate. Interest rate. Let's read the first line for interest rate, which is 5%. It's 5%. We'll read that. It doesn't really matter. So then for monthly payment, let's try to do the same. So let's go back up here. We have to do the same thing. We have to read the monthly payment column. So the column name is monthly payment. We'll read all 3 lines, and then we'll change it in the variable to monthly payment. And we'll pass the value of monthly payment into our expected result variable. So monthly payment, let's read row number 1, or 3. Let's do 3. Doesn't really matter, again. Okay. So since we have no proper expected monthly payments in the data sheet anyways, based on our input data, these monthly payments should all be different. But we didn't change any of those for now, just for testing and pass-fail purposes. Later on, we'll change it. So we change this data, right? So loan amount, loan term, interest rate, monthly expected result. So if you look at the previous videos, you will see that the difference is in the past, we used to read all of the rows within a column. In this case, we're reading a specific line of a specific column, a specific row number of a specific column, using this function and returning value through these variables. Okay? So let's try to run this and see. Let's see what we get. So we still had some errors. So let's comment this on error resume next. Let's comment that for now, and let's run this. So the script will stop somewhere when we have an error. Okay? So we run this. Okay, so this is our error. This error is fixed or temporarily locked, the loan amount, okay. So the loan amount, number 2. So we're getting an error. QTP is able to read all of these columns from our Excel sheet, but when it's coming to the values into our variables, it's getting confused. One reason for that could be that we're using the loan amount variable and the loan amount variable. We're putting the same name, although we're using capital letters, but we're using the same variable into another variable. So this is one confusing factor, which we don't want to do. So let's take care of that and see if that's the issue. Although it's not a good practice to use the same name. So let's put it as loan amount 1, loan term 1, interest rate 1, and monthly expected result 1. So we just give it a slightly different name in the variables, just in case that's what's causing the confusion, because we already have loan amount, loan term variables. So we give these variables a different name. Let's try to run this again and see if that works. We'll get the error anyways. Okay. We do have some error in this case. So it's saying that so we changed the variable names and to loan amount 1, loan term 1, but when it comes to using the variables, when we're trying to use the variables, we're using loan amount. So there is no variable called loan amount, right? So in this case, if we used option explicit, QTP would tell us that, look, there is no variable called loan amount. It should be loan amount 1, right? So again, this is a benefit of using option explicit. So we change the variable names within the .set codes. Okay. So we change the variable names because we changed the variable names in the beginning. So now we have to use the same name when we're reusing them. So if your name is Mike, if someone travels to a different country and calls you as David, it doesn't make sense, right? So you have to call Mike as Mike because that's his name. So let's close everything out. Let's close the browser. And let's try to run this again. So it opens, navigates. I had a breakpoint, so I'll click on run again. Navigates to calculator.net. As I can see, it enters 10 years, 300,000, 5% interest rate. Exactly the data that we wanted from our sheet. And it closed the browser. So let's check the print log. Yeah. In this case, we have a pass. So we used to get an error. We used to get the on error resume next. Well, we used to get the error number is not equal to 0. So this was getting us the fail message before, right? But in this case, we didn't get a fail. We have because we fixed those issues. So now we have a pass. That's how you troubleshoot a script. And that's how we learn, is by troubleshooting. So this is a good practice for you, and try to get some intentional fails and then try to fix them and get a pass. In the next video, let's continue with our data-driven hybrid framework.